Wake up! Wake up! It's funny, isn't it? We keep hearing that expression, wake up. We've got to wake people up. I wonder what that means. I was having a conversation with a very nice chap called Alan on his podcast, actually. He was interviewing me. He's got a radio show and a podcast. It's called The Circle of White Light. And I'll put the link in the description. You can check it out if you like. But it was about challenging one's beliefs. And I suppose very often we are lulled into a false sense of security about things, or we're being manipulated. We all feel we've been being manipulated, don't we? And of course we are. You look at adverts, they manipulate you to buy their product. They tell you how marvelous it is, and if you buy this, it's going to make your hair grow, or it's going to give you just chewing a certain type of gum is going to make the rest of your day feel amazing, and all these sort of things. And maybe the products do. I'm not saying the products don't do any of that, but that's the suggestion. So the power of suggestion is very, very strong. And how you are brought up and your beliefs of what is around you is very much from what people have told you, what you read in the paper, what the mainstream media tell you, what the governments or people in authority tell you, and so on and so forth. And we establish our world from all of this. But that same thing can be used in a darker way, rather than, say, trying to help you like a hypnotist might. My father used to do a bit of hypnosis in the RAF when he was a young man, and he found that he was able to hypnotize people and help them to stop smoking or take pain away if they'd hurt themselves. And I asked him if he would hypnotize me, and he tried it, but I was not a very good subject. And I said, why won't it work? And he says, well, you're thinking about it too much. And that's where I said, yeah, that's true, because I'm trying to analyze what you're doing. He said, well, the whole point is to go into a trance and just accept it. But some people are more susceptible to the power of suggestion than others. And I found that later on in life, I could do a bit of that hypnosis myself. I could hypnotize people, and I could also try and help people to stop smoking or take a bit of pain away. Nothing nasty or anything like that, but just very simple. And it made me understand the power of suggestion, so much so that when things are being suggested to you many, many times, I do question, is it true? Is that right? Because you know the old adage that if you tell a lie to somebody many, many times, or if it's told to you many, many times, in the end it becomes a truth. We just accept something that might not be real or true. We accept it as a truth because it's been repeated and repeated. And this can be a way that we are being manipulated. So going back to this thing about wake up, waking people up, it does seem to me, having done these little talks here and asking questions, that there is a large body of people who perhaps are accepting the narrative as it's being given through like the mainstream media or from figures of authority, that certain things is the true way of believing everything or looking at everything, and people are just accepting it. Now, I've been talking about various things where there are anomalies that are coming up and you think, well, hang on a minute, this doesn't seem right. There's some questions. The main narrative is this. Everywhere I look for an alternative, for a question that perhaps is an opposite view, is not the same. But if I ask people who are taking the mainstream view, they'll say, no, it's all rubbish. Well, yesterday I read out a letter from an MP, and people were in the comments were saying, well, that's no way that is an MP's letter. And curiously, what was interesting is actually one person thought they recognised the style and they had a guess at who the MP was. Now, I'm not going to say whether they were right or wrong, but they said their MP had the same flowery language, or the same what would you call it? The same type of language. Let's just leave it at that for the moment. And they were able to sort of identify who they thought it was, rightly or wrongly, which was interesting. because a lot of people thought that MPs would only speak to them in a certain type of way. But the point was, this particular MP's letter was basically saying that everything's okay, don't believe what you read online, or if there's another story, which just struck me as being not sensible, if anything else. I mean, I'm not saying that the person himself was acting immorally or wrongly, and he may believe that things are okay, and that may be true. But I do think we need to question it. But the art of suggestion, the suggestion that we follow a certain path, that we don't look in a different way, surely is something that I think is useful sometimes, but not always. So, for example, if you're frightened, if you're made to have fear, what tends to happen is you go into the fight or flight mode, and critical thinking goes out the way because you haven't got time to think, blimey, there's a tiger running towards me. Let's just have a think about this. What will it do to me? Is it going to tear me apart? Maybe if I dig a hole or I climb up that tree. By the time you've had those thoughts, it's too late. So you've either got to decide you're going to fight it or you're going to run away, have flight. Now, in a situation where you are frightened, the critical thinking just disappears. And I think in certain situations that we've been manipulated into, a lot of people have not really thought critically or used common sense about certain things. And I think that's where some people who are going, look, we just need to wake people up. We need to try somehow to say, look, the narrative that you've been sold might not be the only narrative out there, that there might be another story. And some people seem to be unwilling to even conceive that there is another story out there. And I think that's where the power of suggestion has been used on a lot of people, either knowingly or unknowingly, to try and manipulate a population, if you like. Now, that's just my theory. It's just my opinion. I may be wrong, and I'm not saying that's what happened. But and the reason I say all of this now is purely that you might be one of those people who stumbled across my video and thought everyone's saying to me to wake up. What do they mean? And I suppose all people who are saying that is that open your mind. There might be another story that's worth investigating. You might look at the other side of the story and think, blimey, that seems a bit too mad to accept. But it might just be worth taking a few grains of that. Take some of it with a pinch of salt, but just, explore a little bit. Which is why so many people I find are saying, don't take my word for it, do your own research, which of course has got to be sensible suggestion. Oh, the power of suggestion. It's got to be sensible to do your own research rather than rely on anybody like me or anybody else online who's telling you what you should do, or figures of authority or mainstream media who are telling you how you should act. I think we should all just take a step back and think, is there another side to it? And I guess that's really all I'm saying.